I, Viddy of ViddyOGamesForFun, have never played or experienced VR games before. Until recently. I went with my cousin recently to Veery, I think it's what it's called. I figured I'd decide to tell you what my experience was like and talk about VR and the games I've played. Some of the names of the different games I either didn't pay attention to or I forgot until I went onto YouTube and looked up some footage, which I'll link to in the description below. So, intro over, let's start at the beginning. Upon entering and confirming the payment for the day, the VR headset was explained to everyone and I got to very quickly try out a game that is either named The Plank, according to the venue website, or Richie's Plank Experience. Apparently the way I reacted to and moved around while playing this was hilarious. It consisted of you being in a lift or elevator and going up pretty high to what was essentially a rooftop. After the doors opened, there was a narrow plank high above a city, which almost looked like my home city to me, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't. Now, if you were there watching me, you could probably tell how this was my first VR experience. The plank was so narrow and it was really high up. I'm not sure if my vertigo is that bad, but gosh darn it, I was scared of falling off. My subconscious told me that I was in a room and that I walked as far as the cord extended to the goggles, I would obviously be fine. But I flapped my arms around and I was like, I don't want to fall, I don't want to fall. Guess what? I fell and didn't walk on the plank properly and my character fell wee and hit the ground on impact. I think there might be more to the game than this. You can have a plank/platform on the floor, which is optional. Also, I wasn't the only person at the venue who was like, I don't want to fall when doing this. My cousin found it so hilarious and wished he filmed me. He did film me, however, playing a game that I played briefly on a phone at least once or twice, Fruit Ninja. Alongside that was a variety of games to play, both in single player and multiplayer. Depending on which row of the menu the game was on, some games were simpler than others. One of them was Space Pirate Trainer VR, which is a tiny bit similar to Duck Hunt and that spaceship shooting minigame on Wii Play. I had a bit of trouble with it at first, wasn't the only time that happened, but as I figured out how to aim properly, move in real life to actually avoid lasers and projectiles, shooting at wave after wave of enemy ships was pretty fun. If the row of games under Space Pirate Trainer VR was any indication, the game Pistol Whip was more of a challenge. After at least 2 attempts, I realised I had to really dance around enemy projectiles, as well as aim at enemies while moving the guns or buttons down to reload ammo or manage health and armour. Speaking of dancing around, it was like doing those action moves in the Matrix films. These VR games can be a workout, not gonna lie. One of the more interesting concepts was Shooty Fruity. You shoot at sentient fruits while working at a supermarket or something. This is multitasking 101 it seems. There apparently was at least one job simulation game at the venue, but I didn't see it or assess it if it would prepare me for certain employment opportunities. It was a cool idea, but I personally found it hard to aim at the fruits. Though doing the supermarket job seemed to be no problem. My cousin got to play Gorn, which seemed to be a gladiatorial combat game. It actually looked pretty funny because of the enemy AI. One thing he said was that moving forward by standing still in real life and moving your hands back and forth actually was a bit dizzying. I'll come back to that. At the end of our time there, we stood at 2 screens next to these big toy-style ramparts defending a castle from bad guys in longbow. Very simply, you had to pick up a bow, which was a bit tricky at first but very responsive, and shoot arrows at bad guys who seemed to explode into balloons when hit. The balloons gave you bonus points, but don't focus on them too much lest you want your castle to be sacked. It was fun, but I personally had trouble aiming. I don't think it was the game's fault, it was probably me with memories of moments from the show Game of Thrones where Arya Stark would use a bow and arrow. She was told once, and I'm paraphrasing here, never aim, let your eyes do the shooting. Seriously, that is what went through my mind when playing longbow. I did get a bit better at it though, with more and more waves of enemies defeated. Overall, it was a fun experience playing these games, and the staff were nice and helpful too. The headset, while a little cumbersome, was actually comfortable and were easy to ignore when playing the game. You had to center the headset on your eyes as best as possible, otherwise the game would look fairly blurry or all over the place. In that regard, it is easy to say that if you easily get dizzy or perhaps suffer from other things such as vertigo, these games aren't for you. I'm not sure if I put off trying these sorts of games for fear of being dizzy. I almost got to play 1 or 2 VR games in the last few months or so with friends of friends or at least acquaintances, but I either got busy or ill beforehand. Of course, it is possible I may have procrastinated from playing VR because of one concern: gimmicks. I will admit, games like Shooty Fruity, for example, are hard to imagine with the motion controls of a Wiimote and nunchuck. The ability to fully look around is cool and adds to the immersion. You can certainly look silly if the footage of me playing Fruit Ninja is any indication, but I'm still a little unsure about VR. It is expensive, it is best suited to very specific kinds of games, rather than just tacked on to games like Super Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, neither of which I played in VR for lack of a nuanced critique. And, again, because of the effects on your eyes and body and so on, as well as wearing a headset, you surely can't play them for as long as you would an old-fashioned game. But I'm actually more intrigued by VR now that I've experienced it, and there are other venues that have such experiences. I didn't get to try other horror games, which surely sound scary, and I could ponder on the effectiveness of job simulations. The Doctor Who fan in me is also interested in what seems to be at least one VR game based on the show, and I've seen a bit of footage on YouTube where you're inside the TARDIS and the Doctor talks to you. I think it is, or was, on sale on the PlayStation Store for the PlayStation 4 as of this upload, but I don't have a VR setup for that system. If I have any further experiences or critiques about VR, I hope to talk more about them on my channel. Let me know if you want to see that, and let me know what you think of VR. Do you like it? Do you dislike it? Do you think it's gimmicky? Or is it the way of the future for the gaming world? Continue the discussion in the comments, and have a good day or night or whatever it is. See you next time.